Oh. Well, thanks so much for coming. We organized this talk just to be mainly about our year in Creighton, Saskatchewan, which is what kind of began the Bob's House project and the scanner project that's upstairs on the wall. So, do you want to talk about where Creighton, Saskatchewan is?
You see this A right here? That's where Creighton, Saskatchewan was. And Regina is down here.
So I was living in Vancouver, back and forth, but I at the time when this project came about, I was living in Vancouver, and Katie and I had met there. Katie had attended Emily Carr University, and I also am a graduate of Emily Carr University. So when I was looking for a roommate, I put an ad on Craigslist, and Katie answered, and we were actually strangers when we moved in together. So, and then we lived together for 7 months, and that was fun.
Yeah, and then I left Vancouver.
Yeah, and then at one point I had been working in Vancouver for a couple different galleries and doing a few, I was continuing my own art practice, but I sort of felt like I needed a break from the city, and so I contacted Katie, who was in Creighton. She had also just left Vancouver the year before.
Yeah.
She was in Creighton working, trying to pay off some student loans, and I said, Katie, what if I came to Creighton for a year and we did some kind of artist project?
And I said, cool.
So she started looking for a place for us to live, and eventually asked her Baba, or tell what happened.
Well, I told my mom we need like an uber cheap place to live since we're artists and we want to put our time into art. And she was like, well, maybe your Baba would like to give up her house for you guys. And Baba was asked, and she thought it seemed like a great idea. So she left her home with just like a couple suitcases of clothes, and we moved in with all of her things.
Yeah, so you can go to the next slide. So this is just a little closer. Creighton is right on the border of Manitoba and Saskatchewan, and it's the neighboring community to Flin Flon. So they're essentially the same place. They don't really, people don't often say they're from Creighton, they'll say they're from Flin Flon, the Flin Flon area, right?
Yeah.
When they're away from town, so.
This is a shot of Flin Flon. Ooh.
And this is where we live. This is Baba's house. So this is just a shot from the exterior. And then this is the inside. We spent the first, how long?
We
3
spent
weeks?
3 weeks.
And Katie had prepared before I got there, trying to.
Yeah, I spent like 2 months putting like yarn in tubs and trying to compact the yarn to make room for us, to make room for Lucien moving there. And then when Lucien got there, we still had about 3 weeks where we kind of tried to make spaces for ourselves within the house.
Which was a big task. Baba had a lot of things, which eventually spawned our Baba's House scanning project. So this is Baba? Sophie Ostrowski.
She's in her natural habitat. You can see the big blueberries sort of around her. She's loving.
She's a blueberry picker.
She's a blueberry picker. She's also a gardener. This was when we had already moved into the house, so this is her harvesting in the fall.
Potatoes.
Harvest potatoes.
Yeah. And she has a huge salt and pepper shaker collection. If you want to go to the next. So there's over 500 pairs.
And they didn't always look like this. While we were cleaning up, Luke took it upon himself to dust every pair and arrange them like pigs. You can see all the pigs are together, sort of. So
it took so long.
These were important.
It was worth it. It actually allowed us to see them.
Yeah, it's like pairs that had disappeared into a mass scene. Also, then were brought forth, and you're like, oh, I never saw that one before.
So if you could open the next folder. Okay. So go back. Yeah. There we go. That one there. So we did all kinds of things in the house. Our idea was that we would turn it into, a sort of arts venue for the town of Creighton. So these are just some miscellaneous shots of things that were kind of smaller projects. So we had a soul night one night when actually our curator Blair was in town. We did a soul dance party. So we turned the living room light into a disco ball and put on costumes. This is a karaoke night we had. This is just
Random night.
hanging out.
We have.
This is the space above the main living area that is sort of a, it's 2 bedrooms, but it has a very low ceiling. So we started calling it the Shag-Shuary for some reason. And it was sort of decked out in retro things, and it was a nice place to be.
Yeah, kind of Arabian Nights.
And it's also where we made all the scans. So one of the 2 rooms adjacent to this room was a huge room just full of material. So we started calling this room the archive, and we would source things from the archive and then make the compositions with them. Baba did a pysanky workshop when we were living there for public people.
That's an egg I did. I'm slowly getting better.
So that's the
Yeah.
So I'm just going to talk quickly about just what I was doing right before I came to Creighton. So I had done a residency in Bruno, Saskatchewan. There's an art center there. It used to be run by Tyler Brett and Carrie Reed, who have recently moved away. I forget the new owner's names, Kirsten Burkle and something. Jonas, there you go. And so I had done this canoe residency. So what I did was, this is a canoe that belonged to my father, who he had kept it in a storage space for almost 20 years. And basically my dad was an American who moved to Canada and was very interested in kind of northern culture and in this sort of Canadian idealized identity, I suppose. So he eventually moved to Nunavut and lived there for 18 years or something until his death. And so that once he died, we had access to this storage locker, and one of the things that was in there was this canoe that had just been sitting there. So this project was called Canoe for Understanding. So it was sort of personal, and it was about kind of trying to understand my father's interest in northern culture, and also kind of the broader interest of I guess white men who are come from other places and yet find themselves in these sort of Inuit communities in the north. And I wasn't trying to answer the questions. I was just trying to sort of explore the questions. What motivates that interest? So I had a lot of books about the regional culture, and also some psychology books, and various things. And then I also had some art supplies, so people could come and chat with me and draw and paint and read. And I stayed out on this back lawn of the Bruno Arts Bank for the month. So you can go to the next slide. And this is just another variation of the canoe. So it was kind of like an outdoor studio. So I had a few different variations for sitting out there. You can go to the next one. So this is a close-up of some more materials. And then this is at night with Christmas lights. And then from that residency, I did a show in February that was all works derived from the residency or else created on site. So it's quite a mix of different things, but drawings and photographs. You can go to the next one. This is a drawing of a brick I did. Near Bruno, there's a brick factory, so I took a brick and crushed it up and used it as pigment to draw the brick that I crushed up. So this is made with crushed brick and blueberry wine and egg yolk. And then the next one, this is one of the thwarts from the canoe. So when I left, I took a piece of the canoe off and burned it and then crushed it up. And this is the oak ash from the canoe thwart. And then I mixed it with blueberry wine and egg yolk. So, and that's kind of a traditional egg tempura recipe. So just basically the yolk itself, you isolate the yolk from the white part of the egg. And it is quite effective in holding pigment and lasts a long time. And there's lots of really historic paintings that are still in great shape. So that's not a new thing to do, egg tempera, but it was and this is just a gouache painting I did of it. I was looking at a bunch of readings by Carl Jung when I was there, and This is, he was very interested in mandalas, so I was kind of exploring the idea of drawing mandalas. So this is a dragon flying mandala. So yeah, that was my Bruno project. And Katie also had some independent projects that were tied to, that's the last one's a video, so I don't know if it will open.
This is a project I did.
Go back to the...
Oh no, called Groundwater Gallery.
Oh.
And, it doesn't matter. Yeah, we'll just, here.
There was another
There it
one.
is. So I made a gallery out of snow, and it was situated on Birch Lake.
This is after it's melted a bit. There was one where it was intact, but we don't know where it went.
Some things disappear,
On the computer.
just like this gallery. This was an installation. So the snow gallery was sort of what it was supposed to be, just 4 walls sort of showcasing various happenings around it, you know. And then I also used it as a venue to host some exhibitions. This isn't in the melt, and the melt is part of it, so as the walls melt, the idea that it will go back into our water system and the water cycle, so I believe it has expanded and is slowly making its way around the globe. But yeah, as it sort of melted, it took on these like rune sort of esque shapes.
Oh,
there it is. That's the original finished product.
So do you want to just quickly talk about what we're doing in the park too?
Okay, yeah, I will as soon as. So then I had exhibitions, so people made their way out there. It's about a 50-minute drive from Creighton. And the first exhibition I had, I think there's an image in there. So this is snow currency. These are snow bricks set atop of a snow plinth, and the work was by a man named Inge Bjornsson, and he was trying to sort of come up with a currency that would never depreciate in value, and you could always make more of, and so he...
And it would liquidate.
And it would liquidate, yeah. And so he came up with snow currency, and I was like, I'm exhibiting that in my gallery.
My favorite part about it was that his snow currency was from a neighboring lake, so we had to drive to where he was
With a
cooler, take the snow currency, bring it over to display on this plinth that was made of snow from this particular lake. So it was kind of pretty funny.
Yeah. And
you can try to open that video maybe and see if it opens.
so one of the other things that we did was I drilled an ice fishing hole in the center of my gallery. Well, Luke did. And I got a fishing license for the gallery. And then I set up sort of just materials that people could fish with, and invited people out to fish in the gallery. So this is Luke catching a fish.
And then getting somebody else to take the hook out.
Yeah.
So we also did a collaborative exhibition that was based off our residency called What You May Call, which is something Baba said all the time, says.
A Baba catchphrase.
So she said, what you may call, Luke, what you may call. So for this we built these shelves and then sort of scoured the house for items of different color schemes. And so we wanted to kind of draw attention to the idiosyncrasies of the objects, I guess, but also take away from that in a way by showing how repetitious they were. So it's just sort of a formal study. So this is a close-up. And this is Baba looking at her things. So this is at
Baba touching her things.
So this is at the Norva Center in Flin Flon, which is an artist-run center that we were quite involved, or we were very appreciative to have them there. They assisted us with a lot of things. And Baba was tickled.
Us and Baba.
So how long did it stay up for?
A month.
Okay, So it was a month-long exhibition.
Yeah. Another thing that happened was a band from Vancouver, the Abramson Singers,
Yeah, so we
came to visit
invited
us.
invited them to come to a concert at Bob's church, which was in Flin Flon. So we made this poster, or I made this poster. These are also some. I did the artwork for the album that they produced last year. So these drawings are on their album as well.
So this is the view of the church hall. It's the Ukrainian Orthodox church. Greek, Ukrainian Orthodox.
This is
There we
us
go.
awkwardly introducing them, much like we are talking right now.
And this is the opening band. There are 5 easy pieces, but one was 6, so these are 4 of the 5 pieces.
And I sing backup, because I do that sometimes for the Abramson Singers. So that's me up there with that awesome beard.
This is Leah Abramson.
So Leah, the songs are all written by Leah. So it's her, she's the core of the band. And then everyone else is sort of hired on for different purposes. So. Oh, it's there. Yeah. And then Avernus, yeah. But I guess you can't read it very well.
We also curated an exhibition called Avernus. And Avernus,
Well, first of all, this is an image by Jason Edwards, who's here.
oh
So these are actually, they look like photographs, but they're graphite drawings on paper. So these are drawings of, do you want me to say anything about this?
Not really, I don't know.
I think you found the jars in your house, right? Your parents' house?
Yeah,
so
they were found
studies.
objects in my parents' house
Yeah.
and canning jars.
So this was the invite for our show that we curated up there, that Jason was a part of. And the title of the show, Avernus, comes from the Flin Flon is named after a science fiction book called
The Sunless City.
The Sunless City, the Papers and Diaries of the late Josiah Flintabbatty Floniton. So, that's right?
Yeah.
I read it. I read it when I first moved to Creighton and kept talking to people about it, and they'd be like, yeah, I don't know, sure. I'm like, that happens in the book. Yeah, it might.
Because you're from the town doesn't mean you have to have read the book.
Yeah.
We all read like a couple chapters in grade 11, but we don't read the whole thing.
So the story is sort of the legend is that the prospector who came to Creighton and Flin Flon for the ore that was discovered there named the town after the character in the book because he found the book while sort of
Or was reading the book while he was prospecting.
yeah. There's a few different versions of the story, but one that is probably the least likely, but that is still repeated, is that he found the book in the wilderness. So then that spawned the idea of this exhibition that was sort of about the discovery of objects. So you go to the next one. This is the back. We made postcards and sent them out to various art institutions that we were familiar with.
Thank you,
To the Saskatchewan Arts Board, who gave us
A
funding for our,
grant,
for our project. And this is so we turned the living room into a gallery. And these are the works. This is one of the paintings was by a painter named Mike Spencer, who lives in Flin Flon currently, and he graduated from the University of Manitoba and then went to do his master's at NASCAD. So he's living there.
And now he manages Norva, the
Yeah.
artist center.
And that painting was called Herringbone Rug, and it's because he used the pattern of the herringbone rug in his studio to scrape paint across the surface and leave this sort of frottage style pattern of the rug. And then this on the one side is paintings by Catherine Joa, who's she lives at Denair Beach, Saskatchewan. So those paintings were of objects she found kind of on her regular walks. What did she say about?
Well, like the one on the far side is of like pill bottles, so this pile of empty pill bottles she sort of happened upon and like how they got there or...
And I think she was interested in the idea of, I guess, object permanence, like when just because, for example, you don't see the object anymore doesn't mean they're not there or
Yeah, they
something.
don't exist.
So she was thinking about how these objects ended up discarded in these nature sort of scenes. So, and then these are photographs by Jason Edwards again, and also sort of still lifes of things he stumbled upon. And the photo paper is from a barn in
Abandoned house.
An abandoned house.
Rockland, Saskatchewan.
There you go. So this photo paper is how many years old?
I think it expired in 1975, and
Yeah.
still
He
had an image. It was amazing.
processed them, and yeah, the images were great. So here's another close up. And then another artist was Carrie Reed. So Carrie Reed ran the Bruno Arts Bank in Bruno, with Tyler Brett, and this is a project, an ongoing project that she works on. The particular rocks she showed with us were California rocks. So she collects rocks from places she visits, and then does these replicas out of stoneware and gouache and paint. So one of the rocks, do you remember? Or I guess these aren't our install shots, but
These aren't, no.
one of the rocks is the real rock, and the other one is the replica that she handmade. And this is, I think, a little boy trying to figure out which one is the real rock. So this is the reception. And then for another exhibition we did, it was sort of a public exhibition. We invited our friend Jen Jackson, who is an independent curator, to curate a piece for our front window that faced the street. So it was quite easy to see walking by on the sidewalk, for example, or walking up the driveway. So this is an artist named Raymond Boisjoli, who is a Vancouver artist. He's of Quebecois and Haida descent, so that impacts his work a lot. And he does a lot of text-based works, and often for public spaces. So you can go to the next one. This is one of his works made with inkjet prints and staples and
Paper.
copy paper. I don't know where that was displayed, but just to show a bit more of his work. This was installed on the sign above a artist-run gallery in Vancouver called Access Gallery. So he kind of works with these phrases that, you know, are sort of evocative little phrases of text. This is one of the transit station, SkyChange station in Vancouver. So he's interested in typography and etc.
And then Jen came and she did a talk on the front lawn of
So this
Bob's
is the
house.
curator right here who came. And she talked about his work and also talked about our project in general, the Bob's House project, and how we were kind of creating an institution outside of, you know, an institutional framework, I suppose.
And then,
Our scans.
woo! Which some of you may have viewed a little bit upstairs.
So our show upstairs is of scans. So what happened was,
When Luke got to Flin Flon, there was a nurse. My mom's a retired nurse, and she was moving away from Flin Flon, so she had free things to give away. And
a friend of your mom's, right?
Yeah, and one of the free things she had to give away was a scanner.
And we had been going through you know, all these materials in Baba's house and just organizing and trying to make space for ourselves. And when we brought this scanner home, we thought, well, what if we do a scan a day of things we find in Baba's house?
And then we can get rid of them. But then I also couldn't get rid of them.
But we also wanted a way to basically communicate with people that we knew outside of town so that they could see what we were up to. So we thought the online format was a good one. There's a blog, a social media sort of blogging platform called Tumblr, which we started an account on that, and we started posting images every day from November 1st to July 31st. So in total, there's 273 images that we made this way. So this is one of the exhibition, or the prints that is exhibited upstairs. So that's the one we were just making in that photo.
One of our rules was to make the scans with objects from inside the house. So, and then another part of the process was after we made a scan, we would show them to Baba, so you can kind of see her reflection and mine, and we would get her opinion on the scans themselves. So you can go to the next one. So this is from the blog. And there's the image, and then down at the bottom, it's the quote from Baba.
So read that one.
Oh, Andrew, that's not Melvin, is it? Has Melvin got curly hair? Because Andy used to. And pierogies? Yeah, I'm sure that's Andrew, because, see, even his face features are that of Angela's, eh? I never in my life thought that you guys would do something like this. Come to Baba's house and pick up all the queer things.
So if you go to babashouse.tumblr.com, this is the archive page that shows all of our daily scans. So the exhibition is just of 24 prints, but there is 273, and when you kind of see them displayed in this grid like this, you get a sense for how much material we actually worked with. It was very difficult to edit our selection down for various applications. But,
Yeah.
so that's all of our slides, but we'd be happy to answer questions. Or, yeah.
Okay.